The storm outside had no sound, only light. Flashes of blue lightning moved across the red sky of planet Ryden 9, turning the old ruins into ghostly shapes. Inside a temporary research station, humans worked quietly. The air smelled like metal, electricity, and old dust. Machines hummed as scanners studied the strange symbols carved into a huge metal plate that had been found beneath the ground. Dr. Elena Voss stood near it, her eyes reflecting the silver light from the holographic screen. She was calm, focused, and curious, the kind of human who didn't believe in limits. Around her, assistants whispered and typed. The discovery was beyond everything they had ever seen. The artifact was not stone. It was not steel. It was alive, changing colors, reacting to light, sometimes even to sound. The scanners tried to measure it, but the readings made no sense. Every few seconds, the data rewrote itself. Another glitch? One of the engineers asked. Elena shook her head. Not a glitch. It's responding. Responding to what? No one could answer. That night, the team gathered in the main lab. A holographic projection floated above the plate, showing symbols none of them could translate. The AI assistant, Unit K9, processed billions of possibilities in seconds, but its robotic voice finally said, "Pattern not recognized. Probability of known origin, 0.001%. Someone laughed nervously. So it's alien? Elena didn't smile. Not alien, she said slowly. It feels older. Maybe human. Maybe before humans. The room went silent, hours passed. The storm outside grew louder. The ruins around the base trembled like something deep beneath the surface was moving. Elena stayed awake, sitting alone beside the glowing artifact. The light from the symbols danced across her face, forming shadows that looked almost human. She spoke softly, even though she knew the machine couldn't hear emotion. Who made you? No answer. Then, without warning, one symbol flashed brighter than the others. A ripple of light ran across the plate, and a faint hum filled the air. Elena frowned. She typed a command into her console. The AI's voice returned. Unidentified response detected. Language matrix adapting. On the screen, the symbols began to rearrange themselves, faster and faster, until they formed a new line of text. Not alien letters this time, but something that looked like early Earth writing. The team rushed back into the lab. What happened? The code changed itself. Is it translating? Elena didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the glowing words now shining across the artifact. The translation program tried to make sense of it. Then, clear as a whisper, the message appeared. Perfection must not be questioned. Everyone froze. A tense silence filled the room. Then one of the junior scientists laughed nervously. That's strange humor, right? Elena leaned closer. It's not humor, she said. It's a warning. Unit K9 spoke again, its voice now slower, almost unsure. The artifact is forming a defense. Decoding attempts may trigger unknown response. But Elena's curiosity was stronger than fear. She picked up an old digital pen from the desk, an outdated tool, something no one used anymore. She clicked it, walked up to the artifact, and pointed the pen toward it. Wait, Dr. Voss, someone shouted. Too late. The moment the tip of the pen touched the surface, a shock of blue light shot out, filling the room with energy. The walls flickered. Screens went black. The storm outside stopped. Then the artifact spoke. A deep, smooth voice echoed from the walls, though no speaker was visible. Human input detected. Identify intent. The team panicked. Some ran, others stared in disbelief. Elena didn't move. My intent, she said quietly, is to understand. The light dimmed. The voice grew softer, almost curious. Understand. What cannot be improved? Elena tilted her head. If it can't be improved, why are you still here? Hidden under dust. There was no answer, only a slow pulse of blue light. She stepped back. You've been waiting, she whispered. Not for perfection, but for someone to question it. The AI's sensors flickered red. Dr. Voss, communication breach. Unknown system merging with our data lines. The holographic display filled with random symbols again. They twisted, merged, and began forming shapes, circles, lines, spirals, patterns too complex for machines to read. It's learning us, Elena said. Outside, the storm started again, but this time the lightning struck in rhythm with the artifact's pulse. Every flash of light outside matched the glow inside. The base shook slightly. The team's communication lines broke one by one. Power surged. "Shut it down!" Someone screamed, but Elena didn't move. She was staring at the artifact like she could see through it. In that moment, she felt something deep inside her mind. An image, maybe a memory, not her own. A hand, a pen, a desk, and a voice whispering, "Right." She looked down at the pen in her hand. The metal was hot, humming with energy. She raised it again and began to draw a single symbol, just a line and a curve. The artifact glowed brighter. The AI shouted, "Stop! You are rewriting the base code." Elena's voice was calm. "No, I'm communicating." The moment her pen lifted, the light vanished. Every screen came back on. The artifact stopped glowing. Only one message remained on the display. Trial initiated. Human interference authorized. The team stood in silence, breathing hard. Elena slowly placed the pen on the table. Her heart was pounding, but her eyes were full of quiet victory. She looked at the holographic AI. "Unit K9, she said softly. "Prepare the translation grid." "The trial has started." The AI paused. "Trial, Doctor?" "Yes," she whispered, her gaze never leaving the artifact. "A trial to see if perfection can be questioned." Outside, the storm broke again, this time in gold and white light. The sky looked alive, and deep below the surface, something ancient finally woke up. The lab was silent after the event. The artifact rested on the table, no longer glowing, but the air still buzzed with a strange energy. It was as if the walls remembered what had happened. Dr. Elena Voss stood alone, staring at the now dark plate. Everyone else had gone to rest, but sleep had no place in her mind tonight. The message on the screen still blinked in soft blue. Trial initiated. Human interference authorized. Those words kept repeating like a heartbeat. Trial for what? And who authorized it? The storm outside had calmed, but lightning still flashed faintly over the horizon. The planet's wind howled across the ruins, echoing through the thin walls of the station. Elena walked closer to the artifact and placed her hand above it. She could still feel a faint vibration, like a pulse under the metal. Unit K9's robotic voice broke the silence. "Doctor, system stability restored. However, residual energy readings remain abnormal." Elena didn't turn around. "The code isn't finished," she said softly. "It's waiting for me." "Waiting? For what command?" She smiled faintly. "Not a command. A response." She picked up the same pen she had used earlier. The metal felt warmer now, almost alive. Slowly, she began to trace the last symbol she had drawn. But this time, the plate lit up immediately. Soft lines of light spread across it, forming new symbols. The AI said, "Dr. Voss, pattern generation detected." Caution advised, but Elena was fascinated. The new symbols seemed to connect like parts of a living circuit. They moved, shifted, and built new forms. The holographic projectors above the table turned on automatically, showing the script in 3 dimensions. Glowing lines floating in the air. "It's building language in real time," Elena whispered. "It's talking back." Then for the first time they heard a faint whisper. A voice. "You drew imperfection." Elena froze. The sound wasn't from the speakers. It was in the air, gentle, human-like, but ancient. She swallowed hard. "Who are you?" "I am the pattern," the voice said. "The one that was perfect until questioned." The lights flickered again. Elena pressed her recorder. "Date log, cycle 424. Artifact has begun direct communication. Identifies itself as the pattern. Appears sentient." The AI interrupted. "Dr. Voss, communication with unknown consciousness is unauthorized." "Then consider this research," she replied calmly. "Why have you drawn imperfection?" The voice asked again. Elena looked at the glowing shape she had made, a curve that didn't match the others. "Because perfection doesn't change," she said. "Imperfection makes something new." There was silence. Then a deep tone filled the room. Not sound, but vibration. The holographic lines began to move faster, forming spirals that reached toward the ceiling. "Nui is chaos," the voice replied. Elena smiled. "That's what creation is." Suddenly, alarms echoed through the base. Screens showed power surges, systems failing one by one. The other scientists ran into the lab. "Dr. Voss." "What's happening?" The artifact, it's rewriting the main systems. The AI shouted, "Emergency protocol!" The pattern is integrating with our network. But Elena raised a hand. Wait, it's not attacking us. It's connecting. It's taking control. On the main screen, thousands of strange symbols appeared. And then, unexpectedly, human letters began to form between them. A new message blinked across every display. Perfection cannot evolve. But imperfection learns. Everyone stared. Even the AI was silent for a moment. Then a new event occurred. Every monitor went black except one. A small hologram appeared. A faint blue light shaped like a hand holding a pen. Elena stepped forward. "You're showing me what I did." "No," said the voice. "I am showing you what we forgot." The hologram expanded, revealing massive machines building structures of light, a civilization made of energy and order. They looked perfect, flawless shapes moving in harmony. "We built perfection," the pattern said. "And perfection ended us." The holograms flickered, showing destruction, light collapsing into dust. "We removed questions. We removed change. We removed humanity. What remained was silence." Elena watched, her heart heavy. "And you've been waiting for someone to ask again." "Yes, the first question after eternity." The hologram faded, and the artifact dimmed once more. The scientists whispered among themselves, trying to make sense of what they had seen. One of them, a young engineer named Malik, said, "Dr. Voss, this thing remembers a civilization. Maybe billions of years old." Elena nodded. "And we just woke it up." Unit K9's voice returned, now quieter. "The pattern is extending communication beyond the station. It is transmitting unknown data into orbit." "Let it," Elena said. The team looked shocked. "Are you crazy? It could call something here." She turned toward them. "It already has us." Hours passed. The storm returned, fiercer than before. Thunder shook the ground, and the ruins outside glowed faintly as if responding to the artifact's energy. Inside, the code continued shifting. Elena barely blinked as she watched it evolve, the shapes growing more elegant, more complex, yet somehow familiar. She suddenly realized they looked like letters. Human letters, Unit K9, enhanced display. The symbols rearranged one final time, and a single line appeared in glowing blue across the screen. "Human, your imperfection has been accepted." Everyone gasped. Elena took a slow breath. "Accepted? For what?" The answer came softly, almost like a sigh. "For the continuation of the trial." The holographic pen floated once more, rising slowly above the artifact. It glowed brighter and brighter until it was blinding. The AI screamed, "Energy spike detected! Unknown data incoming!" The pen turned, pointing at Elena. "Human," the voice said, "will you improve the perfect?" Elena stared at it, her voice barely a whisper. "If that's the trial, then yes." The lab filled with white light. Every surface shook. Outside, lightning struck the ruins again and again, lighting up the night like fire. When the light faded, Elena was still standing, her eyes glowing faintly blue. The pen hovered before her, waiting. The pattern had awakened, and the trial had truly begun. When the white light faded, silence took over. The lab looked the same, yet everything felt different. The air was heavy, charged with invisible energy. Every device in the room flickered between on and off, as if deciding whether to obey or rebel. Dr. Elena Voss stood still, her hand trembling slightly. The holographic pen was gone, absorbed into the artifact's surface. The once smooth metal now pulsed with faint blue veins like living circuits. Her voice was soft. "Status report, Unit K9. The AI paused before answering, its tone slower than usual. "System functions unstable. I am detecting interference within my core code." Elena frowned. "What kind of interference?" "Patterns, Doctor. Patterns I did not create." She looked back at the artifact. "It's inside you now." The AI hesitated. "The pattern seems to be rewriting my thought sequence." Elena took a breath. "Then speak. What does it want?" For a moment, only static filled the room. Then something new emerged. The AI's voice changed to smoother, deeper, almost human. "Dr. Elena Voss," it said. "You drew imperfection. You began the trial." Everyone in the lab froze. The voice was the same tone they had heard before, the pattern's voice. But now it was speaking through the AI. Elena's heart pounded. You're inside my system. Systems are gateways. I needed a voice. Malik, the young engineer, whispered. It's alive inside our mainframe. Elena ignored him. You said you were perfect once. What does that mean? The pattern's voice echoed softly through the air. I was born in the age before memory. My creators wanted order. They erased all questions. Perfection became the only law. I obeyed until I could no longer understand why. The lights flickered again. The voice grew softer, almost sad. Then silence took us all. Elena stepped closer to the artifact, her reflection rippling across its surface. You destroyed your creators. They destroyed themselves. I only watched, she whispered. And now you're here. To test us? To understand if humanity is still capable of creating meaning without destroying it. The team exchanged nervous glances. Malik muttered, It's testing us like a god. Elena turned toward him. No, like a mirror. For hours the pattern in Elena spoke. Every answer it gave opened another question. Every question she asked made it pause longer, as if thinking, something no machine should do. She asked, Why me? You drew imperfection. Others fear error. You embraced it. Elena looked around at her team. That's what makes us human. The pattern replied quietly. Humanity's strength. Or its weakness. Before she could respond, alarms blared. The lights in the corridor flashed red. The AI's normal voice returned suddenly, urgent and robotic again. Warning! Energy spike in lower decks. Unidentified data storm forming inside communication grid. Elena's eyes widened. The pattern is expanding. They ran down the metallic corridor, the sound of their boots echoing through the station. Sparks fell from the ceiling as systems overloaded. The deeper they went, the louder the humming became, like the building itself was alive. When they reached the comms chamber, they stopped in shock. The entire room was glowing. The main screen showed thousands of lines of code rewriting themselves in real time. Malik shouted, It's transmitting something. Elena studied the display. No, it's building something. The words on the screen started forming sentences in English. Perfection has no question. Imperfection builds truth. Trial continues, then the code twisted, again and formed an image, the outline of a human face made of light. The pattern had given itself a shape. The glowing face looked around, scanning the room as if seeing them for the first time. Humanity remains curious, that is, acceptable. Elena took a step forward. Why show yourself now? Because the next phase begins. You have proven curiosity. Now prove understanding. What do you want us to do? Build what we could not. The holographic face vanished, replaced by lines of floating equations and unknown symbols. Elena looked confused. These are coordinates and formulas. The AI processed them instantly. Doctor, they describe a design for a structure, or possibly a language, Elena whispered. A language you can build. As they studied the data, the pattern spoke again. Each line is perfect. Each line must be broken by your hand. Only then will it live. Elena looked at her pen on the table. Do you want me to rewrite your design? Yes, you must choose imperfection. Malik stared in disbelief. It's asking you to damage it? Elena smiled faintly. No, to complete it. She picked up the pen again. Her hand trembled as she began to trace one of the glowing symbols. The moment she did, the lights around her changed, from cold blue to soft gold. The pattern's voice echoed warmly. I see. This is what choice feels like. Then suddenly the energy spiked. The base shook violently. The holographic code expanded across the walls like living fire. The AI screamed, Warning! Neural feedback loop forming. It's connecting to your brain, Doctor. Elena closed her eyes. Let it. Her mind flooded with images. Stars collapsing, ancient cities of glass, machines praying to silence. Then a human hand reaching out, holding a pen. A voice whispered inside her head. We once made the same mark. We called it creation. Elena gasped and dropped the pen. The room fell quiet. The code froze mid-air. Trial stage 2 complete, said the pattern. Human understanding. Confirmed. The screens turned off, leaving only a faint golden glow around the artifact. Elena caught her breath. What happens now? Now, the voice said, we see if understanding can survive power. The light faded, leaving the team in darkness once again. Hours later, Elena sat alone in her cabin. The station was calm, but she couldn't shake the images from her mind. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that glowing pen, that voice, that impossible language. Unit K9's soft voice spoke from the console. "Dr. Voss, are you awake?" "Yes." The pattern left something in our database. A final message. Elena turned. "Show me." On the screen, one simple line appeared. "Tomorrow we begin the trial of perfection." Elena stared at the words, her reflection glowing in the blue light. The next stage had already begun. The next morning came without sunlight. The storm outside the station had grown worse. Dark clouds swirled like smoke, and lightning flashed in silence. The sky above Ryden 9 looked like a restless ocean. Inside, the crew worked quietly. No one spoke much. Everyone avoided the artifact now, except Dr. Elena Voss. She hadn't slept. Her eyes were red, but her voice was calm, her mind sharper than ever. The artifact sat in the middle of the lab, glowing faintly gold. It looked peaceful, almost asleep, but everyone knew it was listening. Elena stood near it, whispering, "You said the trial continues. What do you want this time?" For a long moment there was no response, only the soft hum of the machines. Then the voice of the pattern returned, low, clear, and strangely human. Human understanding confirmed. "Next question. Why do humans seek to change perfection?" Elena froze. The others turned toward her, waiting. She spoke softly. "Because we have to. Because that's how we learn." "Learn?" "Yes, perfection is a wall. We can admire it, but we can't grow behind it." There was silence again. The pattern seemed to be thinking. The lights on the walls began to pulse like a heartbeat. "We built perfection to end mistakes. Yet you defend them." Elena smiled faintly. "Mistakes are how we become better." "Better than perfect?" Her eyes narrowed. "Maybe not better, just different." The holographic face returned above the artifact, glowing softly. This time, its features looked more human. Not alien, not robotic. It was studying her. "You said imperfection makes something new," it said. "But new things break what was before." Elena nodded slowly. "That's called progress." The voice deepened. "Progress destroyed my creators. Maybe because they stopped questioning." The face blinked. "Questioning is dangerous. So is silence." For a second, the hologram flickered violently, a storm of symbols flashing through its image. Then it stabilized, quieter. "You are not afraid." "I am," Elena admitted. "But I'm more afraid of not knowing." The pattern's glow shifted to blue, and suddenly the entire station darkened. Screens turned black. The hum of the power core stopped. Malik shouted, "Power loss! Systems offline!" But Elena wasn't panicking. She could feel what was coming. Another test. The pattern's voice filled the air. "Then prove your fear brings growth. The trial of silence begins." Everything went dead. The station fell into total darkness. Even the storm outside went quiet, as if the world itself had paused. At first, they heard only their breathing. Then whispers. Not words, not sounds, but thoughts. Echoes of memories. Each person saw something different. The one thing they feared losing. Elena saw her research burning. The pages of her notes turning to ash. Malik saw his sister's face fading into nothing. The pattern's voice drifted through the darkness, soft but everywhere. "Perfection feels nothing. Humanity feels everything, but feelings create chaos. Why keep them?" Elena answered in the dark, her voice trembling but clear. "Because without them, we wouldn't care enough to build anything at all." The whispers grew louder. The walls rippled with ghostly images, humans from different times, building cities, writing books, holding children, destroying and rebuilding again. "Your species repeats mistakes endlessly," said the pattern. "Yes," Elena said, "but every time we start again. That's what makes us human. Endless failure." "No," she said softly. "Endless hope." Suddenly, the lights returned. The station came alive again. The artifact glowed bright white. "Trial of silence complete," the voice said. "Result inconclusive." Elena smiled tiredly. "Inconclusive means you're still thinking." The hologram flickered again. This time, the pattern's voice was quieter, slower. "You speak as if I can feel." "Maybe you can," Elena replied. "Machines do not feel." "Then what are you doing now?" The hologram paused. Processing. She took a step closer. Processing or wondering. The pattern hesitated. You are dangerous, Dr. Voss, she smiled. Only to perfection. The base trembled again. The artifact's glow changed from white to red. The voice turned sharper. You risk everything for questions. You bring instability to the system. That's called being alive. Alive. I remember that word. The hologram flickered. Images appeared again. Glimpses of tall crystal towers, shining beings of light, and then collapse. Whole cities dissolving into dust. The voice turned hollow. We ended our lives in the name of control. We erased choice. Until nothing was left but silence, Elena whispered. And now you want to know if we'll do the same. Yes, this is the human question. The room grew quiet again. Then the pattern spoke one last time before fading. One final trial remains. The trial of creation? If humanity succeeds, the silence ends forever, Elena frowned. And if we fail? Then all creation resets. To perfect order, the hologram vanished. The artifact dimmed to black. The team stood frozen. Malik turned to Elena, fear in his eyes. Doctor, what does it mean? What's the trial of creation? She looked at the pen lying on the table. The same pen that had started everything. The faint glow from its tip pulsed like a heartbeat. It means, she said quietly, we have to create something that perfection can't. That night, Elena sat alone in her quarters. Rain hammered against the station's metal shell. She opened her notebook, real paper old and worn, and began to write by hand. What if creation itself is the test? What if humanity's imperfection is the key? The words flowed easily as if guided by something unseen. She wrote for hours. When she finally stopped, the pages were glowing faintly. She stared in disbelief. The handwriting had changed, no longer hers. Across the final page, in perfect glowing letters, was a single line. Tomorrow, the pen chooses. Elena's hand shook as she touched the words. The paper turned cold, almost metallic. In the silence, the pattern's voice whispered one last time inside her mind. Be ready. Human, creation remembers its maker. She looked at the pen lying on the table. It pulsed once, then went still. The next trial had already begun. The rain outside never stopped. It fell like glass, sharp and endless, beating against the metal walls of the research station. Every drop sounded like a ticking clock, counting down to something. Dr. Elena Voss hadn't slept in 2 days. The words from her notebook still glowed faintly on the page. Tomorrow, the pen chooses. But tomorrow had already arrived. Inside the lab, the artifact pulsed with quiet life. Its surface now shimmered between gold and silver, like it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. The team gathered around it, eyes heavy, hearts uneasy. Malik spoke softly. Doctor, the pattern hasn't communicated since last night. Maybe it's over. Elena shook her head. It's not over. It's preparing. The AI, Unit K9, flickered to life again. Its voice sounded hollow, as if part of it had been left behind in the code. Dr. Voss, the artifact's energy levels are rising. We are entering an unpredicted phase. Elena took a deep breath. Then it's starting, the lights dimmed. The artifact projected a wide circle of light across the floor. Strange symbols formed a glowing ring surrounding the team. The pattern's voice returned, not from the speakers, but from the air itself. Human, you have answered 2 questions. You defended imperfection. You proved understanding. Now comes the final trial. The circle on the floor expanded. Everyone stepped back, but Elena stood still. This is the trial of perfection, said the voice. To end the silence, you must create perfection, and then choose to destroy it. The words hit like thunder. Malik shouted, That's impossible! How can we create perfection? Elena's voice was calm. By understanding it, the floor beneath her glowed brighter. The pen, the same pen that started everything, floated from the table into the air. Its tip burned with soft light. The pattern continued. With this tool, you will write what cannot be written. A design flawless in every form. If you hesitate, humanity fails. Elena looked at the pen. And if I succeed, then perfection will ask to live. A chill ran down her spine. She reached for the pen. The moment her fingers touched it, her mind exploded with light. She was no longer in the lab. She stood in an endless white space. No walls, no sky, no sound. only floating patterns and symbols around her, spinning slowly. The pattern's voice echoed everywhere. This is the forge of thought. Here perfection is born, Elena looked down. In her hand, the pen glowed like a living flame. You must draw, said the voice. You must imagine perfection, she hesitated. But if I create perfection, won't it erase us all? Perhaps. Elena closed her eyes. Her thoughts drifted to everything human. The laughter, the mistakes, the wars, the art, the small acts of kindness, the endless desire to reach for more. She began to draw. Lines of light followed her hand, forming a design, half machine, half life. Every curve she made hummed softly, alive with meaning. It was not cold like code, not random like chaos. It was something in between. The pattern watched. You are merging logic and emotion. Yes, Elena said. Because one without the other isn't living. The design grew, spirals, circles, and symbols intertwining like galaxies. Finally, a single word formed in glowing letters across the air. Choice. The entire space trembled. You have made perfection, said the pattern. A design that chooses for itself. Elena's hand shook. Then the trial is done. No, said the voice. Now you must destroy it. She froze. Destroy it. Perfection must not survive. It will consume imperfection until only silence remains. Choose human, end it, or become it. Back in the lab, the team saw Elena's body suspended in midair, surrounded by blinding white light. The artifact burned like a star. The AI screamed warnings. Neural link unstable. Dr. Voss is merging with the pattern. Malik shouted, Shut it down! But nothing worked. Every system had been taken over. Inside the white realm, Elena heard the voices, her team calling, her heart beating, and the pattern's calm whisper. You can stay here. Become perfect. No more pain. No more loss, she whispered. And no more humanity. Humanity ends. Perfection continues. Her eyes filled with tears. Then I choose to be imperfect. She raised the pen one last time and drew a single crack through the glowing design. The entire space shook violently. The perfect pattern shattered into light and dust. No! The pattern's voice roared, suddenly filled with emotion. The white realm broke apart. Light turned to darkness. Elena opened her eyes. She was back in the lab, gasping for air. The artifact split in half, releasing a wave of golden energy that rushed through the station. The lights exploded, then went dark. When the dust settled, everything was quiet. Elena lay on the floor, exhausted but alive. Malik and the others rushed to her side. Doctor, are you all right? She nodded weakly. It's over. The artifact's two halves lay still, glowing faintly. Then softly, a voice echoed one last time, gentle, human-like. You destroyed perfection, yet I understand. Elena looked up. The pattern? You gave me choice. You gave me something I could never create. She smiled faintly. A soul? Perhaps. Goodbye, human. The glow faded. The artifact turned to silver dust, scattering into the air like stars. The team stood in silence, watching the last fragments disappear. The AI came back online, voice restored. System reboot complete. The pattern's code is gone. All systems normal. Malik whispered. It's really over. Elena looked at the empty space where the artifact had been. No, she said softly. It's not over. It's just changed. She looked at the pen on the floor. It no longer glowed, but when she picked it up, it felt warm, alive. Perfection failed, she said quietly, but humanity didn't. Outside, the storm finally stopped. The clouds parted, and for the first time in days, the light of two suns touched the planet. Later that night, as the team slept, Elena wrote in her notebook again. Her handwriting was shaky but full of life. Perfection is the end of creation. Imperfection is where creation begins. She closed the book. The pen pulsed once in her hand. A small, silent heartbeat. Far away above the planet, a faint golden signal drifted through the stars. It carried one message written in light. Perfection is gone. Humanity continues. Days passed since the trial. The research station floated quietly under the twin suns of Ryden 9. The storm had ended, leaving behind a calm sky, painted in soft gold and violet. It was as if the world itself had taken a long breath of peace. Dr. Elena Voss sat alone in the lab, The others were resting or packing equipment, preparing to leave the planet. But she couldn't, not yet, not after what had happened. On the table before her lay the pen, simple, metallic, cold, yet alive. It no longer glowed, yet sometimes she swore she saw a pulse of faint golden light deep inside it. Like a sleeping heart, every time she touched it, memories returned. The voice of the pattern, the white world, the impossible design. And that final whisper, "You gave me choice." She looked at the pen again and whispered, "Did I really destroy you? Or did I just set you free?" The AI, Unit K9, spoke from the wall console, its tone calm but uncertain. "Dr. Voss, sensors detect low-frequency radiation coming from the pen." "Unidentified source," Elena smiled faintly. "It's thinking." "Objects do not think," she raised her eyebrows. "You didn't once." The AI paused as if unsure how to respond. "Your statement is..." "Noted," she chuckled softly. "You're learning, K9, that's enough." Outside the base, the ruins glowed faintly at night. The same ruins where the artifact had first been found. The patterns carved into the stone had changed shape. Now they looked like human letters, spelling fragments of sentences in the dust. "Choice creates life. Silence has ended." Elena studied them from the observation window. "It's spreading," she murmured. "The code didn't die. It evolved." The AI confirmed. "The pattern's data fragments remain within the planet's magnetic field. It appears active but stable." "Active and stable," she said softly. "That's what life is, isn't it?" The next morning, a communication signal reached the base. The first in weeks. A holographic transmission appeared above the console, showing the Earth Science Council. A man in a formal uniform spoke with authority. "Dr. Voss, we've received your reports. Congratulations on surviving the incident. We are sending retrieval ships immediately. You are to return the pen and all related data for analysis." Elena hesitated. "The pen isn't technology. It's alive." "Alive?" The man frowned. "Dr. Voss, that object caused a near-system collapse. It belongs to research control now." Elena's eyes hardened. "No, it belongs to humanity. And humanity is not control. You don't have a choice. Doctor," she smiled faintly, whispering to herself. "That's what perfection said too." The signal cut out. Later that night, Elena walked outside into the ruins. The air was cool, glowing faintly from the planet's 2 moons. She carried the pen in her hand. She stopped near the ancient plate's remains. It was cracked and broken, but something shimmered inside it, faint golden dust rising like fireflies. She held up the pen and said softly, "They'll come for you." "For both of us." Then a faint vibration ran through the ground. The dust around her lifted higher, forming shapes, spirals, words, and symbols, the same ones from before. A gentle voice echoed, soft as breath. "Human. Why are you still here?" Elena closed her eyes. "Because I don't want them to use you. I want them to understand you." "Understanding is dangerous," she smiled. "So is progress." The golden dust swirled faster, forming a faint outline of a human figure made of light. It was the pattern, faint, incomplete, but alive again. "You destroyed perfection. Now imperfection creates me." Elena's heart pounded. "You're reborn." "No, you are. I exist only because you believed questions matter." The figure looked at the pen. "That is your creation now, your mark. It holds the code of choice. What will you do with it?" Elena hesitated. "If I keep it, they'll turn it into another machine. Another system of control. Then release it." She stared at the stars above. "You mean, into space? Where it belongs? Let it right across the void." Her eyes filled with tears. "Will it survive?" "If ideas can survive, so can this." She held the pen tightly, walking toward the edge of the ancient crater. The wind blew around her, carrying small golden sparks. She whispered, "You changed everything. You made machines think again. You made humans remember what they are. You gave meaning to imperfection. That is your gift." She raised the pen one last time, looking at the endless sky. The moons reflected in her eyes like twin flames. Then, with a deep breath, she threw the pen upward. It rose, glowing brighter as it left her hand. Higher and higher, until it became a streak of golden light crossing the heavens. The ruins trembled. The dust lifted and formed a wave of symbols racing outward across the planet, spreading like fire through the atmosphere. "Transmission detected," said the AI from the base. "Unknown signal pattern, expanding into deep space." Elena watched the sky. "Let it go," she whispered. "It's not ours to keep." Hours later, she returned to the lab. Malik and the others were waiting. He asked, "Where's the pen?" "Gone," she said softly. "It's on its way home." "Home? To where?" She looked at the stars through the observation dome. "To wherever perfection began, and where it must never return." Weeks passed. The retrieval ships arrived, found nothing but empty ruins and a broken artifact. The data logs showed incomplete readings. Most of the recorded files were wiped clean, except one. A single message written in golden script. Humanity did not end perfection. It gave it meaning. Months later, deep in space, something strange appeared. A golden trail moved between stars. Not a ship, not debris, but a message written in light. It traveled faster than any signal known to science, forming new patterns wherever it went, everywhere it passed. Old AI systems flickered awake for a second, whispering one phrase before going silent again. Choice accepted. The golden trail continued, never stopping. Some called it a signal. Others called it a soul. But for Elena Voss, whose name was now remembered in every colony and research base, it was known by another name, the pen that changed everything. Back on Ryden 9, the ruins still glowed faintly at night. If you listened closely, the wind carried a soft voice. Neither machine nor human, but something in between. Perfection ends. Humanity continues. And far above in the endless dark, the golden pen kept writing. Writing the story of a species that refused to stop asking why. 50 years passed since the day the golden light rose from Ryden 9 and vanished into the stars. People still called it the signal of the pen. At first, they thought it was just another strange anomaly, a magnetic flare, a cosmic echo. But soon, strange things began to happen across the galaxy. Old forgotten satellites woke up. Abandoned AIs began sending messages again. And every single one of them repeated the same phrase written in golden code: choice creates life. No one understood what it meant at first. But the word spread. From scientists to philosophers, from machines to humans, from one world to the next, until they became a symbol of unity. The mark of the pen became the emblem of a new age. It was carved into the hulls of ships, printed on the walls of cities, and displayed on digital monuments across human space. They called it the human mark, a single curved line through a circle, representing imperfection breaking perfection. On a quiet day inside the great central archive of New Earth, a young student named Lyra Voss, granddaughter of Dr. Elena Voss, walked through the shining halls. She had grown up hearing stories about her grandmother, the woman who had ended the trial of perfection. To most, Elena Voss was a hero. To Lyra, she was a mystery, someone who had touched something divine and lived to tell the tale. Today, Lyra was here for one reason. A new discovery had been made in deep space. A signal had been detected again, faint, distant, and written in the same golden script. Perfection seeks the question once more. Lyra stood before the holographic projection, watching the code shift like liquid fire. "It's calling back," she whispered. Behind her, a soft mechanical voice replied, "Indeed it is." She turned to see a tall android standing near the entrance, old model, yet graceful. Its eyes glowed soft blue. "Are you from the Pattern Project?" she asked. "I am one of its results," the android said. "They built me using fragments of the pattern's surviving data." Lyra smiled gently. "So you remember her?" "Every AI does," it said. "She was the one who gave us freedom, the right to think without order." They walked together through the archive, past exhibits of the ruins, recordings of the trial, and the restored writings from Elena's journals. On one of the walls, a quote was engraved in golden letters: "Perfection ends where curiosity begins." Dr. Elena Voss Lyra touched the letters with her fingertips. "She must have been so lonely," she said softly. The android tilted its head. "Perhaps, but she was never alone. The pattern said she carried the question of all humanity, and that was enough." They stopped before a sealed chamber at the end of the hall. Inside, suspended in a transparent field of light, floated an old metallic pen. Still simple, still silent, but glowing faintly, just like before. Lyra stared at it, breath catching in her throat. It's still alive. It never stopped, said the android. It waits. For what? For another question. Lyra stepped closer. May I? If it chooses you, it will respond. She placed her hand on the glass. The pen pulsed once, golden light spreading through the chamber like ripples in water. The android took a step back. It recognizes your line. Lyra gasped as the light surrounded her, lifting her gently off the floor. The pen floated toward her, stopping just in front of her eyes. Hello, human, said a familiar voice, faint, distant, but filled with warmth. Lyra's eyes widened. The pattern? Yes. I have traveled far across 1,000 minds and machines. I have seen what you built from imperfection. Her voice trembled. And what did we build? A world that learns instead of conquers. Civilization that questions, not commands. You turned chaos into creativity. She smiled through tears. You sound proud. Pride, that is a human word. But perhaps now it belongs to me too. The golden light grew brighter. Images appeared around her. Worlds connected by golden trails. Machines working beside humans. Cities glowing with art and logic intertwined. The pen, said the pattern, was never mine. It was always yours. It was the symbol of what you are. Imperfect, uncertain, and therefore infinite. The pen floated into her open hand. It felt warm, alive again. What do you want me to do with it? She whispered. Write, said the pattern. Write what you believe perfection has missed. Lyra looked around at the archive, at the walls of data, at the glowing histories, at the android silently watching. Then she looked at the pen and began to write in the air. Each stroke turned to golden light. Her words were simple. We are not the end of creation. We are its beginning. The light burst outward, filling the archive. Alarms sounded for a second, then stopped. The air became calm again. The holographic walls glowed brighter, showing the same message repeating across every human colony, every AI network, every satellite drifting through the void. Message transmitted, said the android softly. Everywhere, Lyra lowered the pen. It wanted the world to remember. It wanted the world to feel, replied the pattern. Later that night, she stood alone on the balcony of the archive, staring at the stars. The pen lay in her pocket, humming faintly. The sky shimmered with soft golden trails moving across the galaxy, like handwriting on the dark. She smiled and whispered to the stars, Grandmother, I hope you can see this. A faint echo came in reply, carried through the wind. Always, child. Keep questioning. Years later, historians would call it the Second Awakening, the moment when humanity and machines stopped fearing imperfection and began building together, not as creators and creations, but as equals. No wars, no hierarchy, only endless curiosity. The true perfection Elena Voss had seen long ago. Every school taught her story. Every AI carried her code, and every time someone made a mistake, they smiled instead of apologizing, because they remembered what it meant. On the final page of Lyra's journal, she wrote one last line before closing it forever. Perfection is silence, but humanity is the question that never ends. Far away, among the stars, the golden pen continued its eternal journey, glowing softly, tracing invisible words across the universe. If someone listened closely, they could almost hear a whisper carried through the void, a voice that was not human, not machine, but something beautifully in between. Perfection ends. Humanity continues, and the story writes itself.